John.
Yeah, okay. So the only rule is that everybody has an opportunity to speak, and you can kind of just follow in that format that's behind you. I don't know, you want that back here so you can see it?
Sure, sure.
Yeah, let's just, we'll stick it in the back here. That's fine. I'll just put it back here for now.
This right here.
Go ahead, who's gonna open up this thing? All right, Tyler, go ahead.
The area we chose was morale.
Okay,
The reason we chose that is our decision of focusing on morale was out of the 6 areas, we felt it would be something that we could all take part in and something that would be able to be recognized should our efforts be successful.
okay,
Another factor was that we felt that all of the areas listed could be positively affected by getting morale up.
okay. So what do you need to see to, know that morale is going in the direction that you want it to?
Just that, I guess maybe more smiles, more cooperation.
Sure.
More interaction between different people.
Okay,
Instead of being scared or avoiding somebody just because you don't want to talk to them, because you don't like them,
okay,
bad guys. Or
Yeah.
just they don't see eye to eye. I mean, if everybody's getting along, pulling in the same direction, it'll go a lot better.
yeah. So building relationships and making people feel more comfortable will help influence how morale goes?
Yeah.
Okay,
Keep everybody positive instead of people talking behind each other's backs or something,
Sure.
dragging other people down.
absolutely. Thanks. Who's next?
All right, we have it broke down a little bit differently. We went into plans to implement. Part of our brainstorming is we came up with a list of things that we'd like to try.
Oh, okay.
And we'll
So what was on the list?
kind of go through that right now.
Oh, good, good.
Bob?
One of our plans to implement is what you started already, is involving crew members in decisions on how to do tasks, engages them on a different level, and making them feel more valuable and like a team, more part of the team.
Sure.
Which you've seen that with the guys when we do different tie-ins, water main, storm. Ask everybody, the foreman, say, what do you think? What's your idea? That type of thing.
So how is that different from how it used to be?
It's probably basically, foreman, this is what we got going on today, and this is the idea.
So it went from just telling them what to do to involving
Involve
them.
them all in there, yep.
Okay.
That way they ain't just being told.
What was the reaction when you started doing that?
Very good. You got guys that normally never even said anything, that, hey, they opened up, and it was good, because like I say, one of the individuals, it was one of the better ideas that we had heard too.
Really?
From, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
And,
awesome.
Yep, so that, like I say, that's part of it right there. And then going back into, underneath the return on the investment is better task planning like that. Looking ahead is more efficient. If you need parts that you need for the next day, you'll have them, the foreman will get them all ordered up, and there we are, ready to go. You just stay running. As all of a sudden you come to that point where, hey, we need this bend, that bend, this fitting, you're at a shutdown. And the guys, they get depressed because they're on a roll. They're doing main line, they want to continue laying pipe.
Right.
They don't want to all of a sudden stop, order that part, get it, usually takes an hour or two to get sent to the job. Then in that time, they got to go start on another project, which, pouring inverts, that type of thing.
So you're telling me getting everybody's input helped the planning process so that you could look ahead to beyond what we have to do today to what's
Exactly.
coming down the pipe.
Down the road for tomorrow, the next day,
Interesting.
and you got the parts. And like I said, the guys, they like to keep rolling.
Yeah,
When they're doing main line, they love that end of the day
yeah,
to see how much footage was put in.
yeah, making that progress. I mean, that
Exactly.
keeps people engaged, it keeps them enthusiastic about what they're doing.
Yep.
Good for you. Thanks, who's next?
Well, another thing we were doing is giving better, more positive feedback to our employees, and let them know they're doing a good job when they're doing a good job.
Okay,
And kind of the results of that is everybody feels better about being where they're at. It improves communication between everybody, and it just makes everybody feel like they're part of the team.
yeah, yeah. People support a world they help create. So if we make the world you know, more inclusive and people are having more fun, they're likely to be much more productive, right?
Correct.
Absolutely.
And also another thing for, when we've been doing, like, you gotta test our water, test our sanitary, usually we pass the water test and pass the air, all the tests on the job, and we'll get pizza one for lunch for a
Oh.
reward, cause you didn't have to go back and dig nothing up.
Yeah. So who buys the pizza? You do?
Usually me, yeah.
Wow.
But, you know, $15 and they think, oh, you bought
It's a
pizza
small-
and it's $15.
Yeah.
It's a small
You know,
price to pay for
If
the
you go
kind
to
of
the cheap place anyway.
Chuck E.
so.
Cheese.
But I happen to like Chuck E. Cheese.
Little Caesars.
They're like-
Pizza,
Domino's.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a small price to pay for the kind of cooperation
Yep.
that you get.
You get a little bit more quality work.
Yeah, and it contributes to pride in the organization too,
Yep.
that, you know, we're doing a good job and we see some rewards, at least, you know, formally, you know, a thank you by feeding them.
Yep.
Very good.
Another thing that we were looking at implementing is shirts, hats, you know. We went off and I got my crew shirts for Christmas, and then we got them, Ben got them some too, and the guys really appreciated the shirts, you know.
Nice.
They're happy, you know. Just yesterday Darren was like, yeah, they're, you know, really nice sweatshirts, you know. Just
Yeah,
small appreciation, you know.
so you're taking that upon yourself to do that.
Yeah.
Wow, good for you. So, let's add it up, with all the things that we've heard here in terms of a return on investment. What's the next step, you know, in terms of maybe formally putting all of these ideas into a process that helps profits go up, sales go up, or costs go down? I mean, what are your thoughts on how this is contributing to one of those three things?
Well, we got a whole list here.
Oh, good.
You know, morale's up, it's more an open dialogue between the office and the field, that helps our efficiency, that helps less mistakes, less
Less rework.
rework. Costs go down.
Yeah,
A visible interest from the crews and the working productivity. They're working faster, they're, you know, we're fulfilling our commitments, you know, that's one of the topics, you know. We talked about how morale goes up, it kind of possibly affects all the areas that we were talking about.
so it increases our speed.
Yep.
Yeah.
More can-do attitudes, increasing efficiency, increasing attitudes, better production, efficiency, profits are up.
Yeah.
Better task planning, efficiency, profits are up. More efficient ways of doing things by having more open dialogue, getting guys input on stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
profits are up. Feeling of accountability in each team member's work. You know, we're working as a team, where if someone sees something that isn't right, they're saying something, correcting it now versus correcting it later.
Yeah.
You know, projects are getting done ahead of schedule, customers are happy. Less need for supervision, because the guys they're all, you know, happy, they're working together, they're getting the job done. Our superintendents have more time to be pre-planning for the next day.
Yes.
You know, it helps our efficiency, profits are up. Yeah, that was the list that we've come up with for.
So what do you think the key is to keeping that momentum going? I mean, you've got a great start here. I mean, there's some very clear examples of how we're contributing to improving morale here. What's the key to keeping that going, in your opinion? I'll open it up to anybody.
Just continue every day doing what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Consistency.
Consistency.
Yeah. So by us being engaged and us modeling in that to our crew, we're gonna see a lot of these results.
It might become standard, that's just what is expected day after day, it
Yeah.
just becomes a routine then, if
Yeah.
that's the normal.
Yeah, we make it the new normal,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, we can't keep up on pizza or t-shirts or something.
Yeah,
I mean,
no.
there's
No.
gotta be an end, it's not like a drug habit.
Yeah.
It's the new normal, and the
I'm
new
addicted
normal
to
is good.
Caesars.
That's good.
Great job. Any questions for this group?
No questions, that's good.
Obviously, there's no questions. Skip some applause. Thank you. Yeah. Wow. Great job. Way to think on your feet, and just, you know, that's what we're looking for, is what has been you know, your experience, how can you tie some of the things that we've been talking about these last few sessions into something that's measurable? Okay, good, good. Who would like to go next? All right, go ahead.
There's a camera here now.
Out of your way.
All right, we also went with morale.
Okay,
I think you're gonna see that with everybody, but
there's a common theme here.
it is, and I think that's, we think that's probably the most important to get started, you know, the first step anyhow. So, well, you know, when morale is up, if we have a negative attitude and we're always complaining to employees, we always get that negative feeling from, not only from us to our employees. And when they have that positive, or that negative attitude, that's only gonna bring them down, and they're always gonna complain, and it's a trickle-down theory, that it starts at the top. If we're negative, they're negative, then it shuts down right there. It's a dead-end block there. So, to keep our positive attitudes up always, and even when things are not going right, look for the positive things in the negative situation. What can we build off of this? What can we do to better the situation and correct it and make it a positive situation? So to keep that morale strong, you always got to be positive, even in a negative situation. So, you know, then to add to that, you know, always listen to the employees and have a, you know, keep a smile on your face. People want to see people happy.
Yeah.
And if you're down and out and you're blues and dooms, then you're not focused on good morale. So keeping that going as long as you possibly can, letting the employee know he or she is doing a good job, like the other group said as well. That, I think that's very important. That builds up their self-esteem.
Yeah.
You know, to let them know that they're doing a good job and they are worthy of something. You know, being good listeners when they speak out and come up with a great idea. That was, again, I see a lot of similarities in the last group from ours. Is the fact that when you have that, when people want to be heard,
Right.
and it's important at every level that these people, whether it be our truck drivers or whoever it is, they want to be heard, you know, and
Right.
listen to them with a positive attitude and reply to them with a positive attitude as well. And you can do that. You can be very effective in doing that. Even if you want to correct them, do it in a positive format. You know, and I think that'll bring great results. You know, by accomplishing all these small steps.
How are you going to measure that morale and that attitude? That's
We'll get to
gonna
it.
be you.
That's me. Yep,
That's you.
that's
Okay,
me.
I got it.
You gotta hold your breath there, right?
All right. I'll just shut up.
But,
Go.
no, so, and I guess the bottom line is if you implement all these positive, effective ways, you're gonna get great morale out of these people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let the next guy go.
All right. The easiest way that we're going to measure this is by observing the employees,
Okay.
right? Has some of the employees stopped complaining or reduced? Do the employees seem to be in a better mood at work? Are the employees being more productive? Are the employees missing less time so they want to come to work? I mean, that's a big thing because I sit dispatch and I can see, you know, their attitudes. I'm the last point of contact with them.
Okay.
So
Right.
I see a lot of that measuring there by how they come in at the end of the day. Usually when you go to work, hopefully 90% of the time you're happy.
Right.
You know, at the end of the day, you might have got yelled at. You
Yeah.
know, might have had that negative reaction to that, you know, superintendent. So
Yeah.
that's how you can measure what happens from what we were talking about there to when it comes back to me.
What's been your observation so far?
It's getting better. You know, like my biggest thing that I wanted to accomplish was more listening because they usually come to me at the end of the day and I usually want to go home, you
Sure.
know, like everybody else.
Human nature.
So you have to take that upon yourself to listen, and by doing that, you know, I seen like a lift up, like instead of saying, well, I gotta go, it's more listen to hear what they have to say,
Right.
and that creates a better attitude with them.
Wow.
So, that's basically how we were gonna measure all that stuff that Todd just got done talking about.
Okay, okay. All right,
And kind of the return on investment and, you know, what we think that we're gonna get for, you know, doing what these two gentlemen talked about.
Right.
Is by keeping a positive attitude, smiling, listening to the employees, not complaining to the employees or about the employees or whatnot, keeping the positive attitude, calling employees by name. And the returns on investment will have a number of different, we'll get a number of different returns. First, employee morale will improve, and this will reduce employee turnover. If people want to be here, they're not going to look for another job and quit on us. So,
sure.
you know, that can help in a couple ways. One, you got the retraining cost, but sometimes people will quit and not show up the next day.
Huh.
So then you have a crew that's short somebody. So it will help.
Do you know what the statistics are currently?
Mm.
You know, does anybody? I mean, as far as turnover in the last measurable period?
What I see is about 20 per year, you know?
Okay.
I mean, what I see come through, 20 if not plus.
So we'll know that, you know, some of the results are starting to take hold when that number goes down.
Definitely.
What does it cost to retrain or add a new employee, you know, besides the salary? I mean, I've heard as much as 6 months' pay is usually what the training costs are to bring them up to speed and actually get them there. What's your observation?
Besides, you know, I do the most new employee orientations, and you know, we have them do their CRT tests and have them do drug testing, and there's my time orientating them, and Courtney actually orientates them, so the few hours they spend here. So if you start looking
That's
at
a
that,
lot of overhead.
you know, that's $500 just to get them,
Absolutely.
you know, orientated.
And then not to mention what your time is, and, you know, what, you know, it costs to have somebody shadow them and train them in, you know,
and then they
on the
get on a
job.
new crew and nobody knows them,
Right.
so you have to slows the whole crew down and everything.
So, I mean, those are all a factor here. That could be another way of measuring, you know, if you can reduce the turnover number.
And we also think that by improving the morale, we'll also turn Frattalone companies into a place that people want to work for, not just work for. So
Yeah.
we'll have people that will be knocking on our door, you know, can I get in, can I get in, can I get in, versus us knocking on the
Nice.
hall saying, you know, send us somebody.
Will you come here?
You know, so
Right.
that's kind of one of our things that, you know, morale's up and everybody enjoys working for us. It's gonna benefit the company, and we're gonna get the best of the best then.
Absolutely.
We're also, by increasing the morale, stress levels for all employees will go down. Jobs not running smoothly, behind schedule, and unhappy customers are causes of stress. Employees who enjoy their work and like the company they work for will strive to do a better job. This in turn will increase their productivity, which will make jobs run more efficient and keep on or ahead of schedule, which will make our customers happy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'll pass it on to Steve.
All right.
My part's a little bit different than these guys,
Sure.
because my group is real small.
Okay.
And I don't have a lot of turnover.
Okay.
So my big thing with my guys, what I've been trying to do has been morale. Trying to get the guys to work with each other. Because we see the same guys all the time, so personalities kind of clash.
Right.
So years ago, you know, we used to do these Christmas parties, real big elaborate Christmas parties.
Yeah.
And I used to do a party before that, and then I'd have a summer party. Well, that's things that I've been going back to doing. We're trying to get the guys to feel excited about coming to work, kind of like it's kind of like going to be with your buddies, you know,
Yeah.
or that kind of drifted away for a while.
More of a sense of a team.
Yeah, a team. I think that word gets overused, I guess,
Yeah.
in my opinion. But just looking forward to going to work and bullshitting with the guys and
Yeah.
telling them what you did over the weekend.
Sure.
As far as the question for turnover, for me and my guys, it costs a lot more than 6 months' salary. It could be a couple of years worth of salaries before they actually get to the point where
Yeah.
they're
They're productive.
really valuable and making money for Frattalone, for Frattalone
Right.
companies. So I don't really have a lot of turnover as far as losing people. For me, it's getting people that are even trainable or even interested. So I've shared this with other guys. For me, getting personalities to mix, I look for that probably even in times more than the ability of the person.
Yeah.
Because we can teach the ability, the personality, you know, and that feeling
Yeah.
that they have, it kind of has to be within them, so.
Right.
This last 6-8 months, I've looked at myself, what I can do to blend that
Nice.
better. My management style has changed, again, this is me personally, with my crew, trying to not be so, this is what we're gonna do, and ask them more, and get their input in it.
Yeah.
And I believe it's working because I'm being told it's working.
Have you lost anybody since you started this?
Not on their reason for leaving,
Okay.
yeah, no, nobody.
So your project's more, theirs is more about, you know, reducing turnover as far as a measurement. It sounds like yours is more about retention and keeping the people that you have happy and productive and engaged, right?
All of the above.
Yeah,
All of
okay.
the above. And then when I do get a new person in, having that group of people, let that person feel welcome.
Yeah,
Because then they're gonna feel like coming to work, and,
that's right.
you know, the comment was made, they won't be looking someplace else. If
Right.
they feel like this is a good place to go,
Yep.
and they're working with their buddies,
Yeah,
the word's gonna get out there.
yeah. It's one of those unseen things that, you know, it's the elephant in the room. Do I feel comfortable with the people that I'm working with? Do I look forward to going to work? And you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, paying attention to that is gonna increase that retention number, and in your case, reduce that turnover number. Any questions for this group? I'm gonna hand them a, yes, round of applause. Since there's going to be a theme today, and the theme is about morale, but that's a good thing, because a lot of the things that we talked about over the last several sessions has been those human relations principles. You know, how do we, you know, become a friendlier person, which means how do we, you know, get other people to feel comfortable with us? How do we feel comfortable with them? How do we win them to our way of thinking? How do we get them to do the things that they ought to do? So it seems as though many of the things that the themes that we've been tying in are being delivered in this ROI project. So we've got, you guys next? Come on up. All right.
We also did morale.
Okay. Well, let's hear your spin on it.
This is something we all knew was a problem.
Okay.
And that we could contribute to. And I got a description on it. And
Good.
Well, we as a group have been working on trying to get to know our employees better by asking them more about what they want to learn and feeding off that to see how much information and specific tasks that we can put on them.
So how is that actually being played out? I mean, when
Well,
you're just asking them, what do you
Well,
all learn?
Yeah, I mean, some of the guys, you know, they wanted to learn more on a machine, or
Okay.
some wanted to be on the ground more and learn grades, and kind of asked them, you know, and supposed to kind of get to know them better anyway, and
Yes,
it worked out good just being able to talk to them about it.
absolutely.
So,
Good.
some guys you try to get, you know, they want to move up on a piece of equipment. So
Right.
instead of kind of feel like you're holding them back on a certain pace, you give them the opportunities to move on and try something else that they've been wanting to do, you know.
Sure. Sometimes after you kind of get into a habit, you get into a rut, you change the machine, you have a new outlook on it, you're more enthusiastic about it, you want to learn more.
Yeah.
Okay.
sometimes that can be, you know, more can be good for people, and sometimes you learn what maybe not so good for others, you know, they, you know, some don't wanna maybe learn grades or do anything besides run a machine, or, but, you know, that works fine too, cause you need both.
So it sounds like getting to know what people really
Yeah.
want to do
Yep,
and being able to match them to what they're best suited for.
yep.
Okay,
Complimenting their work did too, when they had a good day, or, talking to them about their bad days too and what we expect for the next day.
good.
Well, a lot of our stuff that we do is skill oriented,
Yeah.
I mean, in the field for what we got going, so, I mean.
Highly technical.
Well, yeah, I mean, the machinery makes the money, right? The guy
Yeah.
runs the machinery, so,
Okay.
I guess we tie in the morale to a certain extent with that, to keep the guys happy, keep them efficient. And
Sure.
it kind of ties everything together,
Yeah.
A lot of the list of stuff gets tied pretty close together with one comes after another,
So how do you know that morale is improving with those people that are running those machines? How do you know?
Well, it's a lot of guys are easy to tell when they're happy or not,
Yeah,
If you guys, if they're ornery or not. I mean, you get a few minutes every day to talk to guys and figure
Right.
out, what's going on. And communication is another key into that too, In the morning when you get together and go over your task for the day. I
Yep.
mean, that's a big part, and you feel everybody out through that too.
so what have you been changing over the last couple of months here? I know that you probably don't have, any more time than you normally would to talk to them. How are you changing the way that you're having those conversations?
Trying to make more time to talk in the morning before you
yeah?
get going.
Okay,
And I think that improves on efficiency too,
Okay.
If everybody's on a program
yeah,
and knows the task that's gotta be done,
sure,
everybody kinda works together and gets it done,
yeah, that's important.
Yeah, well, it's the key.
Yeah, good, good.
Measure, I guess, is basically the employees' attitudes. You can tell as a boss, when you show up in the morning, who's on board and who's not. And I think that we've been working on just basically being a little bit more open to the employees of what's going on within the company, what's going on within the job. I think that's gone a long way in the mornings, and I think that's helped the attitudes, the performance of basically the operators that you're working with that day.
So what are some observations or best practices that you're seeing when you're having these conversations and you know that maybe these guys aren't with it today, they're not happy about the things that you're asking them to do? What are some best practices or things that you can do to get them back on board?
I like to ask them.
Yeah, ask them.
I like to get their opinion, get
Okay.
them involved with what we're doing, and, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and you start asking, you get your group together, and you ask, well, what do you think? Well, what do you think? And then they start talking amongst each other, oh, that'll work better, and
Yeah.
it's just a trickle-down effect.
So getting people engaged, involved, asking questions, getting them to contribute, because we're not mind readers, right?
And sometimes use their idea, even though it might not be the perfect idea. I think it's kind of helped me a little bit. Or, let's, somebody will say something in the morning. Maybe we should switch to this cutter. Let's do this. And even though I don't really want to do it that day, I'm seriously, it'll lift the whole crew by going, listen, we're not losing money. We're still going to make money, but
Right.
some days I think you got to do that just to.
Being flexible
Yeah,
and
a
letting
little
some
bit
people
flexible,
have a
yeah.
win every now
Yeah.
and then, right?
Yeah. And I think that goes back to the customers too. They see our attitude, if we're working for general contractors and when, we're on the site and we're showing that we can do these projects and that when our guys are out of the machines and they're, being talked to by the customer, they're being positive and not negative, and I think
Right.
that in return brings us a lot more work in the future.
Isn't it amazing how our attitude can have an impact, positive or negative, on other people, both our coworkers and our customers?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, tell me about the results of the ROI. How are we, is there a measurable way, based on what you've observed from working on your project that ties to profits going up, sales going up, costs going down?
Well, I think it shows too, like, we'll get a lot of return customers. I mean, if we get a customer that we continuously work for, usually that's a good sign. I think that,
Customer retention.
Because if their company's giving feedback to Frattalone company saying, well, you guys in the field are terrible to work with,
Yeah, you don't want to hear that.
And, and it's out there and they stick to it too, if you get especially if you work for these bigger companies and you get marked working for those bigger companies, and then you end up losing a lot of their work, I think it all comes from, the work that we're doing in the field.
And sometimes we don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Yeah.
We don't know why they just stopped doing business with it, we just know that they've stopped.
Yeah,
And so this could potentially open some doors
yeah, I mean, it
to
always comes down,
repeat customers.
yeah, it always comes down, I think, to the bottom line, but not always though, and sometimes
Right.
on those rate jobs that we do want,
Right.
I think by showing the effort that the company puts forward, I think that's where we stand out, you know?
Yeah, yeah, good. Other ways that we can tie it to an ROI?
Well, production, you know, I mean, that's part of our job, to know production, you plan ahead, you know what
Yes.
you wanna get done in a day. So, I mean, it's, and the end of the day, we see what you got done, if you've achieved your goals, you know, you're moving ahead, so it's a good way to measure for me.
Absolutely.
And if morale is up, you know, it goes back to that thing where the guy wrote the 6 on the floor.
Yeah.
The screw wrote the 7 on the floor.
Right.
If they're happy to be there, they're gonna do a better job.
They're gonna do a better job, yeah, and give you that incremental effort, and that's what we need, is an engaged workforce. All right, any questions? Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
I'm going independent.
We've got the independents.
Start, you guys
Uh,
want to start? No, you're going.
Whoever would like to start, go ahead.
You can start, Corey.
Okay. You know, for me, this was a little tough because my job really doesn't fit almost anybody else's room other than Steve.
Okay.
I took a lot of it looking at improving myself, you know, from the dealing with stress. You know, at times for me, I can be on the telephone, I can have 4 guys working in the field by themselves at night. Each one has a different problem. I took it to myself to try to, you know, not take it out on the next guy that calls.
Sure.
When the first thing goes wrong, I try to tell myself, you know what, take a minute. Okay,
Yeah,
what just happened to me here was not this guy's fault.
yeah.
And try to improve that. Trying to improve on individuals I have working for me, you know, and I think everybody's probably seen it.
Okay.
Everybody probably has that individual, when you give them a project, they shoot themselves in the foot immediately. They don't feel that they can complete it, they don't feel that they can get it done. I have one individual like that who I've seen an improvement. I've taken and somewhat turned his negativity and be able to turn it around. He can see that, well, maybe I can get that done tonight,
Yeah.
and seen improvements there.
And how do you do that?
Basically, like we had talked to them about their ideas, say, okay, why do you think we can't complete this tonight? And once we could talk about it a little bit, I'd say, well, that doesn't sound so bad, and
Right.
we'll kind of go through each thing, and I can get him to that point where all of a sudden he'll be going, well, maybe we can get this done tonight. You know, maybe we can. And when he does complete it, I've tried to start to give all my guys that pat on the back.
Yeah.
That, hey, you've done a good job. I have another individual who
Well,
repeatedly
before you
tends to
go
struggle.
into that, how do they respond when you do give them that,
Usually-
that affirmation?
At first, they've been kind of, you know, like, okay.
Yeah.
Now, you kind of see a smile on their face, and
Yeah.
they are like, you know, kind of like, thanks, you know.
What do you think's gonna happen if you stop doing it?
I think they're gonna wonder what's wrong. I think that they're gonna see, wait a minute,
Yeah.
what just went wrong here? So I
That's
find
progress.
yes, I
That's
find myself
progress.
having to keep doing it and telling myself, I gotta keep that smile on my face.
You bet.
Whenever they succeed, you gotta give them a pat on the back.
Yeah.
I have individuals who go out, and when the first thing goes wrong, the rest of the night is a snowball.
Oh,
So
yeah.
those are also the ones that I have to work with to say, okay, come on, this may have failed, and we may have gone wrong here. Let's move on to the next one. We can do this. And I've seen them step up to the plate so that their whole night is changed for them, where when one thing goes wrong, they
Yeah.
don't necessarily let it ruin the rest of their night.
Oh, yeah.
And when they come back, and I'll say, how did it go tonight? Did you have to order any parts or anything? No, it's all done. I'm like, pat on the back.
Awesome.
Hey, it was a great night.
Absolutely.
So I've
Managing
seen,
their attitude.
yeah, I've seen changing their attitude toward that has helped also. I can give other example. New young guy that just came to my shift.
Okay.
He's fresh out of school. His attitude was, when you would first start to tell him something, is, okay, I know that.
Oh,
I know that.
Yeah.
So things have really changed with him. I let him a little bit wander off to where things don't succeed and say, wait a minute, okay, we got to take a step back here.
Yeah.
This is what we need to do.
Let's back up.
I haven't heard that out of him in a while now. Now he's come and he will ask questions,
Yeah.
which is also an improvement because the other guys in the shop and other guys around him would say they didn't want to be around him because as soon as
He
they
was a
tried to
know-it-all.
help, yeah, he was
Yeah.
a know-it-all. So we've seen that change in him. He's asking other guys questions. He's been able to work with other guys that at first had an attitude toward him that I don't want to work with them.
Yeah.
I tell them that tonight you have to go out with this guy somewhere, and they look at me like, "Are you kidding?"
Oh, yeah.
But that's starting to change.
Good.
So I've seen a return on that investment of just spending the time with them and trying to work with them.
Yeah. How do you think, what's the measurable return on that? I mean, it's those are great examples, by the way, of, you know, actually applying what we learned and being able to change other people's attitudes by you taking responsibility to manage those attitudes. How do we measure that? Is it in retention? Is it in?
I think it's in retention. And a lot of the guys that I get are young guys,
Yes.
not a lot of experience. So the goal is to change those attitudes so they're a little more susceptible to they want to learn. They're
Yes.
willing to ask a question.
Yep.
Hopefully the return on investment is going to be that their skill level improves to
Yeah.
a point where they're going to be a big asset.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Let's give them some appreciation. Yeah, so you work night shifts, right?
Correct.
Okay, yeah. So how many people are normally on your crew in the evenings?
Right now, I think I've got about 6 guys.
Okay.
And a lot of those guys work outside at
Yeah.
night, in the rain, in the snow, in the dark, and they're by themselves.
And I can imagine, you know, unity on a team of that size is important. If one person is perceived as a know-it-all, it really affects the morale of the rest of the team. Yeah.
And that goes back to what Steve said earlier. He talked about morale and
Yes.
people's personality in general. You really have to look at that when you work with that same group of people.
Yep, it's important, and our biggest role as a leader, as a manager, is to manage those attitudes, you know, because it's all about us getting results through other people. I mean, we can't be everywhere at once, and we can't, you know, have our finger on everything. We've got to trust, and we've got to let go and manage those people. So it's important to manage those attitudes when we have conversations with them. All right, you guys.
I'll go next.
All right.
I was not here for this when we brought these out, but I'm gonna bring out a little bit based on a project I was on this summer. I was on a
Okay.
project in Iowa where I basically was gone for 9.5 months.
Okay.
I had anywhere from 15 to 25 guys working under me the whole time. So I kinda had a mini Frattalone within the main company.
Yeah, yeah.
So, we battled with 30-plus days of rain down there.
I hear it rains
We
in
hired people from, because we were in Iowa, we had to bring in Iowa contractors.
Oh, boy.
We had to bring in a lot of our people new down there from up here.
So you kinda had to
So,
dumb it down for them, huh?
I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna tie 3 of these things in, and from the
Okay.
very first classes we had, I started doing some of this stuff. So I wanna
Okay.
kinda touch on morale, which in my mind leads to commitment,
Okay.
which in my mind leads to efficiency.
Okay.
And this particular job, based on what we battled, I'm not so sure we got to this part of it, though.
Okay.
As much as we
Well,
wanted
let's
to.
see where we lead with it.
Being gone for 9 months, first of all, hiring, you bring in guys, and up here, we get to do a full interview. Down there, we pretty much put under the fire. We would bring them in, talk to them for 5 minutes, get them through the tests.
There you
Out
go.
of the 10 or 11 Iowa guys we started with, we probably interviewed 3 or 4.
Oh, wow.
Because they just were not
Couldn't cut
up
it.
to our standards,
Yeah.
basically, or they didn't come to work, or. Then we started bringing down some of our younger employees, so there was a lot of teaching going on. So as it went on, we had to change what we were doing on the management end. Our meetings at the beginning, because there wasn't as much going on in the mornings, our pod meetings probably were a little more vague, but I found once we started going here and as the groups started getting bigger, we had to be a little more open in the morning and have a little more bigger version of a meeting. And I would also spend more time going out to each sites. I could have guys working on 8 or 9 different sites where I'd
Yeah.
get out to them from that point on and have to do a little more management there.
Okay.
I'd have to deal with getting people off for weekends, for weddings.
Yeah.
That stuff too, when we're getting pushed to keep going.
So you had a lot of things
I
that you
dealt
had to deal.
with girlfriends and fiancés with
Sure.
pregnancies
Wow.
down there.
Yours?
Well, not mine. Dan was one, but you know, you gotta talk with those guys too.
Yeah.
You know, when you're out of town like that, it isn't like they get, you know, they get to go home at night for a couple hours, the next morning we're back at work. So
Right.
my couple hours, I would try, when I got home at night, would try to forget about the job, even though you can't, because it never goes away, to relieve some of that stress, you know. So it was.
So what did you do in terms of, you know, managing that stress during that, you know, time in Iowa?
The time off, or during the day, or
both.
On our time off, I think we talked about this last time it came up. Once in a while, you went and had a beer now and then.
Absolutely, yeah.
On a Sunday, we'd try to go fishing.
Sure.
As a group, we would do some barbecues. You know, we were all, a bunch of us were on a farm.
Okay.
So we could do group barbecues.
Oh, nice.
Or we had some pizza nights.
Sure.
Where things come out and you talk amongst stuff going on there too. And it seems when you get in the open like that afterward, then some of the better ideas actually come out, you know.
Sure.
But as far as handling guys too, I have a little athletic coaching background. And what I've always found, and I found it especially helpful on this job because of the quantity of people, was that there's certain guys you can butt heads with and get your point across.
Right.
And there's other guys you got to go up and do this and pat on the back. You got to figure out all 20 of your
Right.
employees
Yeah.
to bring in your most efficiency.
Yeah.
So
what did you do differently as a result of this experience?
Communication, I think, was bigger as we went on.
Yeah.
You had to communicate more, get things across. Listen, you had to know which employees you could listen to and take advice from
Right.
a little more, because their ideas work on a project that big, or on any project. But
Sure.
tried to communicate more back here, like between Dylan and I, more than probably we started out. I mean, we ran by the seat of our pants down there, so it was tough sometimes. But, you know,
So as far as, you know, results, based on, you know, what you talked about morale.
What I did find towards the end, when everybody's ready to get home,
Yeah.
and it did dry out a little bit, but that group that ended up on that job down there did not want to give up. They wanted to get that job done, and we missed out by about 12 days because it froze too hard.
Right.
But even then, there was guys saying, "Let's just stay and get
Let's
it done."
do it.
You know, so you can tell something was done right.
Yeah.
But those guys weren't just wanting to bail. You
So
know,
is that normal when you're working on a crew, on a job in a remote location? I mean, is there that sense of bonding or commitment, or
Yeah, I
is this
think
different?
yeah, I would say that other guys that have worked out of town too, the bigger your group and the longer you're with
Okay.
them, I think there's more of a bonding.
Okay.
I mean, I know for a fact down there was some more bonding than I've seen like in an in-town job. I mean,
Okay.
you're with them so long that
Yeah.
there's no way you can.
Sure.
I mean, I had two of them that are having babies, one's like any day, but
Yeah.
they would actually come, well, how did it work when your wife was pregnant? What was it like in the waiting room with you,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, they'd come and ask you that, so, well, I'm not gonna tell them no or anything.
Right.
So, I mean, you're even getting that too, you
Yeah.
know? So,
Well-
it was a unique experience down there this summer.
So how can you tie this to, you know, a measurable return? What would be something
Well,
that?
and we actually had a work meeting today about this particular job.
Sure.
And I think you gotta cover yourself more than ever before when you're out of town as far as pictures, computers, notes, stuff like that. So if you need to go after different situations money-wise, you got something to fall back on.
So being more organized.
Yeah, I mean, even on that, it might be not so much just myself or whoever else is down there. Maybe we needed a little more help down there from the management end of it or that thing, but I mean, it's just, I think we learned from a job that big that got that spread out, what we can do to bring things back to make this end come up a little bit too, you
Yeah.
know. The weather, we really couldn't do a lot with, but.
So while it's fresh in your mind, are there some best practices that you've
Oh, yeah,
gained?
I think about it all the
That you
time.
can document
Yeah.
that will help lead to profitability going up the next time you're in a
No doubt.
situation like
Yeah.
that? Okay, good. All right, good stuff, appreciate it.
What I did mine on is commitments are fulfilled, and I know sometimes when the estimators bid the jobs, they make promises to general contractors, and by the time we get the job and get out there to actually do it, they're expecting us to perform at a certain level where we don't have the resources to perform at that level. So it's, you know, some of that goes back to just, you know, getting into the pre-con meetings, bringing up suggestions in the pre-con meetings, the weekly meetings that you have with them. So a lot of, I guess what I'm saying is with that is being honest with the customers on the schedule, on what we can perform. I know in the past on particular jobs where when we're really busy, I'll go and I'll send my schedule into dispatch, and because I've gone through the job sites that we're supposed to go to the next day.
Sure.
And Scott will call me back in the evening and tell me, well, we just can't get there. So instead of just blowing it off and waiting until tomorrow, I'll call that job soup that night and say, you know, I told you we'll be there tomorrow.
Right.
We're not going to make it. And they'll be irritated. And I just tell them that, you know, I could have waited until tomorrow. I could have called you tomorrow or just not called you at all. You're expecting us to be there. But I said, at least I'm giving you the opportunity to think in advance.
Yeah.
We have a lot better chance of getting there, not tomorrow, but the next day now, because it's already been scheduled.
Right.
They know that it's, you know, it got pushed back. That's just part of describing the plan.
So is there a standard operating procedure, you know, in terms of when you're scheduling to keep these commitments here, of when you communicate to the customer about the window?
Well, what I try and do is, you have to visit the site before you schedule yourself in there. You can't just call the job soup on the phone and say, are you ready for us? Or he calls you and says, you know, I need you out there tomorrow. You have to go and look at it, because a lot of times they have their blinders on and they don't really, you know, they see their little area of concrete that they want, but there's stuff everywhere around it. You can't even get a bobcat to it. So you have to go out to the job site to see what it looks like. And then you talk to the job soup saying, you know, this has to be cleaned up or that, or, you know, we need this space, that space, in order to get our work done.
So is the change being about more proactive in terms of, you know, managing the site at that time and then communicating back? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, in a sense, I guess, yeah, it's so I can see visually what the site looks like. I can get the guys there tomorrow or schedule the guys for tomorrow, knowing that what we have to get done, you know, trucking or materials or whatever, equipment guys, so we can get that job done.
Sure.
And then it's, again, if we can't make it there that next day, it's calling the job soup saying, you know, we're not going to make it, but we should make it the following day.
So how does, you know, focusing more on keeping our commitments in terms of increasing our communication with our clients, how does that impact one of these?
Well, I think just having a better working relationship with the job soup like that, where, you know, the communication is back and forth. Because what they do is they go off of your schedule and they're making their own schedule too. You know, I'm trying to make my schedule to keep my jobs going. Well, they're making their schedule with all the other trades on their jobs, so
it's
they're
like a spider web.
Yeah, they're expecting us to have a certain thing done, and then the next day another trade is coming in. So it's keeping the lines of communication open and just better communication with the job soups, the general superintendents.
So if more commitments are kept, does that impact profitability?
Oh yeah.
How so?
Just how do I say this? If we can't make it to the job and I go and I pull a couple, I'd say I don't talk to the guy. I don't talk to the job soup. He's screaming the next day. So I have one job. I'm going to pull a couple of guys off of that job. So I'm shorting this job to get a couple guys to this job. Then I have two jobs that are running short. So, but again, you talk to them. You get there with the right amount of guys on the right day, and you get the work done.
Then it can, then the profitability matches what was projected and how it was bid.
Right. And other times, you know, I've talked to job soups and they, you know, we're all ready for you, ready to go. And you go there, assuming, and they're not ready at all.
All right. Let's give them some appreciation.